Hi, everyone. It's Friday evening. It's region weather meteorologist Matt Wintz with a look at your forecast. As promised tonight, I want to look at that weekend system that's moving in. We've got some gusty winds with that. We were highlighting that over the last week, but I want to time out that rain and more specifically that line of gusty showers that still looks to be in the forecast. So we'll talk about that. We've got some more to talk about next week. We turn very active about a week from now as well. A pretty interesting system I've got my eyes on. I'll explain here coming up in the forecast, but I know it's not Thursday evening. I promised you Friday, but we'll call this a Thursday evening edition, even though it's not, of Region Weather Weekend. We'll got your questions at the end, and we'll get everything answered for you here on this Friday night. Region Weather Weekend starts right now. And welcome in, everybody. We thank you so much for joining us here on this Friday evening. I hope you guys are excited for the weekend. I know I am. It felt like a really long week. I don't know why. I know we had Halloween, on Monday, so that shouldn't make it feel like a long week, but I am so ready for the weekend, and I hope you are too. So I appreciate you joining me here and spending a little chunk of your time here on this Friday evening talking about what that weekend forecast looks like. So let's get to the maps. I want to thank our sponsors as well. Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram out of the Valparaiso area. Wonderful car dealership. They specialize in Jeeps. That is their thing over there, and it's winter season around here. So what would be better than driving a four-wheel drive Jeep in the snow? Probably not driving in the snow, I'll be honest. Also, Discovery Travel, they will plan out any trip you possibly can imagine, whether it be a cruise, a Disney vacation, or just a trip over to Wisconsin Dells, whatever it happens to be. They'll take care of everything for you, or just the little things for you. It's Discovery Travel, TRVL, on Facebook and .com. Also want to thank Tiger Plumbing, our local plumbers from Northwest Indiana. Big fan favorite of you guys, tigerplumbing.net. They'll come out for free. They don't charge trip charges, and they come out and analyze the problem, and they take care of it for you. It's tigerplumbing.net. So here we go. In terms of the forecast, we've got this vigorous storm system coming into the Plain States. We've had tornadoes down in Texas and Oklahoma, even Arkansas as well. This has been a big storm system for them with the severe weather outbreak this evening. For us, we've had a couple showers, but most everything's been off towards the north and the west. And that looks to continue at least over the next couple hours. So where do we go with this? Winds are really going to crank up. Right down here is this area of low pressure, and that low pressure is really going to strengthen tonight. So it's a low pressure right now, but it gets really strong tonight and tomorrow morning. That's going to be the reason for all the wind. Whenever you have a strong low pressure, that means just that. It means an area of lower pressure in the atmosphere, so there's a lot of rising air. There's not as much air and pressure pushing down, and it's so low that everything has to fill that void. If you have air going up, you have to replace that air down here at the surface somewhere. So the stronger the low, the more of kind of a vacuum you have, and all this wind just flows into it. And that's the reason why we're going to have wind here locally, in addition to some of the showers that we have. So let's time out this rain for you. Again, winds increase tonight. We should stay dry for the majority of the night. And then as we get into tomorrow morning around daybreak, that's when we start to bring in some of the more significant showers. We'll likely have moderate to bands of heavy rain at times. Shouldn't last that long, though. I don't see a huge rain event out of this. But the thing that these will do with all the jet energy up above us, we've got a really strong jet stream screaming up above us in the clouds. As these more pronounced showers build up into that, the updrafts and downdrafts within that shower, or when you're getting rain, they have more updrafts and downdrafts than just basic clouds. They can bring some of that jet stream wind down to the ground. So that's why we could also see some very gusty winds when it's raining. When you get a shower in, you can really get some wind gusts because it's bringing that down from up above. And again, gusts over 50 tomorrow cannot be ruled out as this moves through. There is a wind advisory out. Keep in mind, wind advisory, people usually doesn't catch your attention. The National Weather Services and the neighboring offices were debating doing a high wind warning, which that garners a little bit more attention. This is a very high-end wind advisory. It'd be a low-end high wind warning. Bottom line, whatever you call it, it's going to be windy tomorrow. And I would plan for perhaps some small limbs to come down. We could have some power outages. Anytime we have a strong wind after we haven't had a wind event in a while, it's been a couple months, we could definitely see some leaves and stuff, or some limbs and stuff like that come down. So keep that in mind. Also, if you have holiday decorations, whether it be you put up the Christmas decorations early, or if you still have Halloween decorations like us, I've been a little lazy getting the pumpkin out. Okay. You might want to bring those in if they're loose. Okay. Just that might be something to do tonight. Okay. So keep that in mind. Wind is going to be the biggest issue tomorrow. In terms of severe weather, I don't see a big severe weather threat. I think this initial batch will have some gusty winds with it. This is 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. We're getting some rain through here. We get a little dry patch in there. And then this is that line of gusty showers that I was highlighting a week ago, perhaps with this front. And here it is. This is it materializing on the models. It's a very thin line with the actual cold front. This looks to pass sometime around midday through early afternoon. So I would say 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1, 2. That would be the window of this actual front going by. And this could have a very brief, strong wind gust with it as it moves through. You'll likely get a very heavy downpour, and then it's done. Probably 5 to 15 minutes is all this thing will last with the front. But you can get some wind damage with that. That would be our severe threat. And again, it doesn't look too high. I think the majority of the action is going to be west of us, not just tonight, but tomorrow morning as well. Fronts through tomorrow afternoon into the evening will actually start to clear up. It's still going to be very windy outside, so keep that in mind if you have Saturday evening plans. But we may see the sun break out before sunset again. And then Sunday, this whole system heads away, and we're not dealing with any weather concerns whatsoever. Still some leftover wind around, but overall, we're not dealing with any rain or anything like that. It looks to be filled with lots of sunshine. So I want to show you two things. I want to show you temperatures, because if you have Saturday plans, those temperatures are going to be dropping. I also want to show you the wind speed. So let's start with some of the gusts. Again, this is just the modeling, but they've all been really consistent. So here tonight, we've got gusts over 20. It's breezy outside, but watch what happens as this low develops. Look at that area of wind out ahead of this. This is tomorrow morning through midday and early afternoon. The latest HRRR model indicating wind gusts over 50, perhaps 55 miles per hour. I would say over 50 would be possible tomorrow. I don't think everyone's going to see that, but it is going to be very windy, bottom line. That moves out. You see we're still windy. This is like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then you can see as we get into the evening, the winds really start to subside as high pressure builds back in and that low pulls away. And then Sunday, breezy day, but not really a big deal. Okay, temperatures, let's look at this. Big demarcation line between the warmth that we've been in and the cold to the west. Pretty much from Mississippi River west all the way to the west coast, it's very cold. They've had a very wintry week. They've had lots of heavy mountain snow out in the Rockies. Canada has a ton of snowpack right now. It's been very snowy for them. If you ask where winter's been or where November's been or when's it coming, well, it's been in the western U.S. and Canada over the last week and a half. You can see where that line is now. Like here we are in the 70s and 60s here this evening. Tonight, our low probably won't go below 60. Here comes the low. And notice how it's not coming at us from the west. That would bring in the cold air. It's coming at us from the southwest. So, yeah, we get colder tomorrow afternoon and evening, but notice how it doesn't last. It just kind of goes north and east, and we get back to some mild conditions on Sunday. So no big punch of cold air. The thing that we need to be kind of on alert for tomorrow, again, if you do have those Saturday plans, is we're going to start in the 60s and watch what happens by evening. We're back down into the 40s once that front goes by. So the afternoon will feature falling temperatures back into the 40s. It will feel windy and much cooler tomorrow evening. But in terms of the real cold air, not coming in there with this one. Temperatures will kind of flatline in the 40s tomorrow night. But there will be a temperature drop tomorrow. All right, final thing, and then we'll go ahead and answer all your questions for you, is where do we go from here? I want to fast forward, and we'll look at this more on Sunday night's Region Weather Live, but I always like looking long-term because, you know, your phone app can tell you one thing, and it can change, and it's pretty accurate for the next day or two, maybe even 3 days without changing a whole lot, because that's just with the modeling. But the one thing your phone app's not going to tell you is what's going on, at least in terms of the maps, day 10 through 15. And that's the stuff I like to hone in on and kind of look at the forecast, because we saw this system coming about 10 to 15 days ago. And the modeling has gotten pretty good on that, but you just need, you know, a little interpretation of that and looking at the differences in the model. So let's talk about this. So here goes our weekend system right there. Notice next week we go kind of dry Monday, Tuesday, and then there's another big system that forms out in the plains. At the same time, this is now Wednesday next week. At the same time, there's this kind of tropical entity down towards Florida. A lot of moisture. It originally starts as a low, but may become tropical. And as we go through time, this is Thursday. This is Friday now. This low pressure down towards the Gulf, whether that be tropical or not, is expected to come inland and head up the eastern seaboard. At the same time, you've got this really potent frontal system coming in here a week from today that's bringing widespread snow to areas in the plains. How these two merge is going to be a big deal, and I'll show you why. This is the Euro, and the Euro has maybe some showers out ahead of it. They have no tropical moisture reaching us, and they have just this potent front coming in with showers. That becomes, yes, some snow showers by next Saturday, okay? But not a big deal on the scheme of big deals, okay? Let's show you the GFS. Okay, so that was the Euro model. This is the GFS, which is the American model. This has the same thing. Here's our tropical system, which has it as a hurricane. Here's our system out in the plains. This is Thursday. It brings rain in a little bit earlier. The whole tropical system gets caught up in that and it misses us. The GFS American model still has some snowflakes around Friday and Saturday. It's a little bit earlier, right? Cold air, and then we're done with it. And then we won't talk about these other systems. There's a lot of other things on there. Those two aren't that big of a deal, right? No big deal. I want to show you the GEM. Okay, this is the Canadian model, and this one got my attention earlier today when I was doing some forecasts. So here we go. We go through time. The GEM has, here's Wednesday, big system in the plains, tropical system down towards the south. But watch how these come together. So strong area of low pressure, says the GEM, over Illinois develops. Heavy snow breaks out in Wisconsin. Meanwhile, we've got a tropical storm coming into coastal Carolina. These two, says the GEM, kind of meet up and merge into a much larger system, right? It's all about the timing of this low and this low. Do they miss each other? Does this one go first, this one goes, or do they come together? If they come together, we have a very interesting forecast, and I'll leave the word at interesting, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the GEM, as of now, and again, all this will change, but these are the two lows we'll be watching. That probably won't change. Modeling picks up on that pretty well. Big question is how they merge. But the GEM has Friday. Let's just go for kicks like this is truth. The GEM has Friday, heavy rain. We start warm, probably in the 60s. Temperatures crash Friday evening. We turn rain over to heavy snow. This is next week. Strong winds out of the northwest. Then this low wraps up, and we're talking heavy lake snows for Porter and LaPorte County. Lots of snow across the Great Lakes. Temperatures in the 30s. Much different, right? And then we kind of stay there through the weekend. Because of that merge and that strong low pressure, it actually flips the whole U.S. pattern so that systems come at us from the northwest, whereas the other two major models, which I trust a little bit more, keep everything kind of going west to east, which keeps that real cold air and that big pattern change from happening. Something to watch. That's the only reason why I say that. If you guys have been with me long enough, you know that we're not going to call this a forecast. We're just looking at the modeling. And the two things I'll be watching as a meteorologist next week is what develops in terms of a hurricane or tropical storm or a non-tropical system, but what develops with that low off the East Coast, and how does this system that's coming into the plains come in, and how do they interact? Because if they merge together, that could drag in some very cold air from Canada, and we could see this be realized. But one thing to take home from this is next Saturday, all three major models agree we could have some snowflakes around, and that would be our first of the season. Will it accumulate? Again, not calling that at this point because a lot can change on that, but certainly interesting to see in terms of that. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with in terms of long-term forecasts. So let's answer your questions here on this Friday evening. And we'll get you on your way. Again, I know it says Thursday evenings. That's when we typically do our region weather weekend, but it's Friday. I promised you I'd do it on Friday so we'd have the most up-to-date information on tomorrow's storm potential, which earlier in the week I said it didn't look like a big severe event for us, and I still don't see it being a big severe event. Wind is going to be the major issue tomorrow, and especially when you get some of those showers, they could have some strong gusty winds with it. Hi, Jay. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Deshaun. Hi, JK. And hello. Deshaun says, nice day to get today in Gary Maryville for sure. Kim, hello to you. Danielle says, good weather only, please. Well, we kind of had good weather in the forecast. Some of the days, it's really not going to be that bad. I have a 4-day weekend. We closed, several people sick with COVID. Oh no, Jeff. Sorry. I hope everyone's okay. Tom, hello to you. Diane, hello. Okay, here's a good question. John asks, how much rain are we expecting to get in good old Crown Point? Let's look at it, John. Let's get your rain going here. I don't think a lot, John. I mean, I'm just off the cusp here. I would say probably maybe 0.15 to half an inch at best. Everything's going to move pretty progressively tomorrow. So let's go in. We'll look at precip total. We'll zoom in to Northwest Indiana. And here you go. So let's not look at the gem, shall we? Let's look at the euro. That has pretty good estimates on here. So here you go. So the blue is when you get a half an inch. The euro is a little bit more impressed with the rain. So it's saying anywhere from a half an inch to 0.75. It just depends on that first batch. Our main batch is going to be tomorrow morning. There's likely going to be something moving through in terms of good coverage. We should get a little break, and then we'll get that little line of rain as it moves through with the actual cold front itself. I think this is a little bullish in terms of the precip, but we'll just keep it at that. We'll put a quarter of an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch of rain. Not going to cause any flooding. Obviously, it's been dry, but we could use every drop of this. We really could. So let's hope for something a little more organized tomorrow morning. Julia, you're absolutely welcome. I hope you enjoy your weekend for sure. Kim asked a good question. What direction will the wind be blowing? Kim, it's going to be southwest until that low moves through, and then it's going to whip around to the west and eventually a little northwest tomorrow. But the south wind is going to be your real strong one out ahead of it. I can show you what it looks like here on a map. Let's look at wind gusts here. And so, this one actually doesn't show it. I think wind speed does. Yeah, here you go. So you can see here, see those lines on there, Kim? Here's your strong south wind. These are sustained numbers. So it turns south to southwest, and then the low goes by. And it actually remains pretty southerly. There's your westerly wind there, but that's not till Sunday. So I would say south to southwest to, I would hint a little bit more westerly, but southwesterly after that. There's no strong northwest or north wind with this system at all. Let's see. Maxwell says big tornado on the ground in Texas right now. Heard it hit a big town. They got nailed today, Maxwell. There was a tornado at 5 o'clock 4 hours ago that was on the ground. The debris was being lofted some 30,000 feet in the atmosphere. They get hit hard down there. Yeah, JK are saying the same thing for sure. Texas is getting hit. And the reason why is because they've not only got the humidity down there, they've got a sharp dry line on the backside of the system, but there's just so much shear. And that shear is what could bring us some strong winds during any developed shower tomorrow as well. What the shear does, it's changing the winds with height, or you can get speed shear too, which is changing of wind speed with height. Both those things sustain thunderstorms. So in the summertime, there's basically no wind outside. There's basically no wind shear. A storm will build up, and then the rain will come down, and the whole thing will just kind of collapse on itself. Whereas this time of year, we're in the spring, you have a lot of wind shear. And what will happen if you have speed shear, that storm will build up, but the wind is stronger up here. So it'll bring this part of the storm out so that when the rain falls, it doesn't rain itself out. It can constantly continue to develop into a bigger storm. And that's kind of how shear plays into that. It also creates rotation, which we all know shear for. But, shear doesn't just cause tornadoes or storms to rotate. It can also just cause storms to live longer, I guess, and have more energy and keep going, if that makes sense. Jan talking about dry weather on Tuesday. Tuesday does look great to vote for sure. And you like to walk to the polls to vote. Very good, Jan. Yeah, everyone get out and vote on Tuesday. It does look good. There's no weather concern whatsoever. Hi, Diane. Thanks for joining us. Deshaun says, is this welcome to False Fall? I know. I've heard that, Deshaun, all those things. Kevin asking about Justin Fields. No comment right now, Kevin. Melissa says, hello, weather husband. Hello, Melissa. Jay says, with the snowpack out, Jay, great question. I like where you're going with this. With the snowpack out west and in Canada, do you anticipate a colder, snowier, earlier winter pattern? Jay, I'm glad you bring this up. That snowpack that's laying down in Canada right now is always the recipe for allowing cold air to get from the North Pole or Alaska or somewhere up north, and it slides easily across that. Whereas if that were bare land with no snow on it, it would be allowed to warm a lot quicker, et cetera, because snow, remember, reflects the sun, the albedo effect on that. So it causes it to actually be colder, right, when you have snow on the ground. So in terms of winter, Jay, you've been around long enough. I think you know my feeling on winter forecasts, okay? If I can tell you what it's going to be 10 days accurately from now, then I'll give you a 3-month forecast. But we can look at global patterns, okay? We always have been able to. I think the big question is marrying the different ideas, what goes with what. We're in our third La Nina, looking at some past years in terms of ocean temperatures now and how they match up with years in the past, and then matching those up with years in the past where we've had a La Nina. They have favored a much colder, I wouldn't say much colder. They favored a colder, but much snowier winter across the northern plains and the Great Lakes, and even portions of the Northeast. There are some other things that we can look at as well, some of the oscillations, etc. Everything's not, you can't just look at one thing and say, hey, it's going to be a colder, snowier winter. That's what we thought probably back in the 90s when we said it's El Nino, that means this. It's La Nina, that means this. That's not the case nowadays. There are so many more things that show what the weather's going to be or predict what the weather's going to be. And also you can get in a short-term pattern where there's a high pressure that blocks everything and it screws your whole winter forecast up. So what I would say out of that is everything does kind of hint towards a colder, much snowier winter, especially across the Great Lakes and Northern Plains, as I mentioned. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Again, I'm not a big fan of winter forecasts. It's going to be cold. It's going to snow. Okay. We're going to have warm days in there as well. That's your winter forecast. But laying down the snowpack is one of the things that helps us get snow and helps us get cold. And the pattern that we're in right now with La Nina and the ocean temperatures the way they are, I would lean towards, yes, we're going to have a worse winter than the last couple of years because we're certainly due for it. It's been pretty mild the last couple of years. Maxwell asks, think the wind advisory will be upgraded? It could be, Max. You know, I tell you, the models are showing high wind warning criteria. Whether we hit that or not, I think determines whether they upgrade it. I think the first time we get our 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts anywhere in Northwest Indiana, I would imagine they're going to upgrade tomorrow. Bottom line, this is a high-end wind advisory. It could, you know, they could issue a high wind warning, and it would be the same thing. It's just going to be windy tomorrow for sure. Good question though, Maxwell. Stacy says, "Love your lives. Thanks for the update." Stacy, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I love to do this, you know that, but I'm just tickled by the fact it's Friday night and you guys are with me talking weather, geeking out about it. So I appreciate you. I really, really do. Each and every one of you. I always do. Diane asked a good question. Is a storm unusual for this time of year? Diane, it's not. You know, late October, usually around Halloween is when our pattern really starts to flip in terms of the jet stream comes back down to the south. And anytime we have cold air battling warm air and the jet stream in between across the lower 48, we can spin up some really strong storm systems. So fall, especially late fall into winter, we can get these real windy systems around here. So this is not unusual at all. This is very typical for this time of year. Deshaun, thanks for joining us. Maxwell, you're absolutely welcome as well. Jay, for sure. No problem about that. Let's see. Kimberly says, you word me on the bottom right. It says Thursday evenings, right? You please, everyone, don't go to work tomorrow. Kimberly, I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that we usually do Thursdays, right, to get you headed for the weekend. But I told everyone the last Region Weather Live we did that we would be doing Friday this week because of that storm threat tomorrow. I wanted to have the latest information on it. So that's why we're doing that. But yeah, it's not Thursday. I should leave that block. Please don't go to work tomorrow. Please sleep in, everybody. Diane, you're welcome. All right, guys, I think that does it. I think we've got everything in that we need to talk about. And hopefully you feel prepared, not just for the weekend. Again, if you had to pick a weekend day, Sunday is going to be your day. Tomorrow's not going to be terrible in terms of tomorrow evening, but we're going to have the wind and the rain around at least through early afternoon tomorrow. And then we start to improve. And then we talk a quiet start to the week, and then we'll keep our eye on next weekend as it gets interesting, as I said earlier. Okay. Hi, Mary. Thanks for joining us. You guys can always go back and watch the broadcast if there's any questions you have or something that you miss, for sure. Kimberly's getting Christmas photos on Sunday. Perfect. That'll be a good weather day for you too. You should have some good sunlight too for that magic hour or whatever they call it in the evening when the lighting is really good. All right. Nothing could help this face with the magic hour. I'll tell you, it's great. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me. Guys, have a wonderful weekend. It's Friday. You know, normally it's Thursday and we're like, we got to work tomorrow. But no, enjoy the weekend. You made it to the weekend now. You deserve it. So rest up and have a good time. Again, bring anything in that you have that might roll around in the yard with some strong winds tomorrow if you can. Okay, don't forget to do that before bed. Have your cell phone charged just in case. You might get a power outage tomorrow. Hopefully we don't have that, but it's kind of inevitable with strong winds like this coming in, okay? All right, guys, we will next talk on Sunday night for Region Weather Live, our normal time. Until then, we'll plan on having a good weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?